It may have been the weekend, but the law never stops. Happy Monday, everybody. I'm Brian, here to bring you the court news that you missed over the last couple of days. This is the morning report on the federal courts for August 18th, 2025. If you don't mind, drop a comment or a like, and if at all possible, watch the entire video. It really helps other people see this and helps it get out there onto the various algorithms. All right, now grab your coffee. Let's get into this. Okay, we're going to start with the Doctors for America case. This is a case where the federal government took down a bunch of websites back in February as part of the president's executive order to remove woke information from federal websites. The problem is that this was really important public health data used by doctors all over the country to track certain medical thingies and whatchamahummers or whatever. I made a much more in-depth video on this case about 5 months ago if you want to go back and watch it. The point is that while this case is ongoing, the government is required to put the information back online. And the government published a status report on that effort a couple of days ago. According to the status report, the health department is understaffed for some reason and is having trouble getting this work done. So of the 222 websites identified by the plaintiffs, they still have 77 to go to check and see if there were any changes made and to undo those changes. But they are very slowly returning all the information that our doctors desperately need to help keep us healthy. So maybe don't get sick anytime too soon, I guess. All right. Now we're going to head up to Boston to look at City of Chelsea v. Trump, where the Secretary of HUD, Housing and Urban Development, is, according to a new filing, supposed to just issue certain grants to the city of Somerville, according to a formula that's determined by law. You think you're better than me? But instead, he's using a new formula that includes an immigration certificate that's in line with Trump administration priorities, which is not, according to the plaintiff, legal per se. This case was already underway. This is sort of an additional thing that the administration is doing that they were already being sued for, but they just can't seem to help themselves in making it worse. So the plaintiffs are, I suppose, asking the judge to make the feds stop, and I guess we'll see what the judge says. Now, based on that last case, I'm sure the government will comply very slowly. Okay, next case. I spoke last week about Global Health Council as well as AIDS Vaccine Advocacy Coalition, both cases v. State Department. These are two consolidated cases where the Court of Appeals held that they had no standing for the plaintiffs to bring the cases under the arguments they were using, and they dismissed them. Now, the plaintiffs are going to ask the D.C. Court of Appeals to rehear these cases en banc, which means with a bigger group of judges in the Court of Appeals. And it's possible that if they agree to it, that they might get a different response. Now, it sounded like, I'm just not sure that everybody was on board with this decision, even if it was a really good chance to tell you guys about standing. Now, they've requested a stay in the meantime, and we'll see how the lower court responds to that. I read the defendant's opposition to the motion for the stay, and honestly, it was a little bit weak. They had much better legal legs to stand on, but mostly they just seemed to say that, well, the Court of Appeals already decided this, and therefore you shouldn't stay the decision, and just kind of kept saying that over and over again. Who knows? Judges work in mysterious ways. A stay in this case might require the federal government to continue making payments, which I think the payments were almost complete, at least for the year, so it might sort of moot the issue a little bit. We'll see. Okay, last thing, and then I'm going to let you get on with your Monday. I just want to run through DC v. Trump again and get you an update. So, quick refresher, all right? Pam Bondi issued an order on Friday or Thursday night. We're going to call that order number one. And it said that her guy, the head of the DEA, was going to take over as DC police chief. And then the DC Attorney General said, nope, DC cops do not listen to this lady. You can only take orders from the DC police chief. And then he filed a court case on Friday morning. And he filed a temporary restraining order to stop order number one. And the judge, in a hearing, but not in an order, said, you know what? I do think he's right. The DC police only take orders from the DC chief of police. So let's put that part to bed. But the president is allowed to tell the mayor of DC to tell the chief of police to provide him help doing president things whenever he wants. But then that's all she really said about it so far. Then a little bit later on Friday, Pam Bondi rescinded order number 1, took it back, ripped it up, threw it in the shredder, and the people rejoiced. Yay! But then she issued a new memo, order number 2, and the people stopped rejoicing. And it said, I heard what the judge said, so instead of putting my DEA guy in to replace the police chief, I'm going to make him a liaison to the DC mayor. And he's just going to tell the mayor what the president wants her to do to help him with the president stuff. Because that's what the judge said we were allowed to do, right? But remember, the judge didn't really say they were allowed to do that. She just sort of was kind of thinking out loud at the hearing and said, I think this is what you're allowed to do. So over the weekend, the DC AG pulled back his motion for temporary restraining order because it was about order number 1, which doesn't exist anymore. And he basically said, yeah, we'll get back to y'all on Monday. But the judge still hasn't told us anything definitive, and we're just kind of hanging out, chilling, and waiting. That's just sort of where we are. I think in the next hour, we're going to start seeing some more filings, and we'll have a better sense. But I wanted you guys to at least start knowing what had happened up till now, because it's a little bit confusing, especially with the rescinding and putting it back. It's kind of a mix. It's kind of a mess. All right. That, my friends, is the end of your Monday morning report for August 18th, 2025. And if you wouldn't mind, please leave a comment or a like to get this out there. I would appreciate it. If you know somebody else who'd like this, please share it. Otherwise, keep watching. I will keep going. I'll probably have more on the DC case in an hour or so. I'll probably get it to you tomorrow. Meanwhile, thanks a lot. Enjoy your coffee. Have an awesome Monday. Bye, everybody.